This whole offseason for TSM was crazy. We heard so many different stories, so much different speculation, so many different rumors, and we know that TSM is notoriously tight-lipped. We know that TSM tweets, articles, videos, everything gets more clicks, more views than most other teams and most other things. So you are incentivized to, even if you have a slight hunch, even if you have a slight scoop, even if you have an unreliable source to put out some TSM news, and it leaves us in this really, really weird spot of getting a ton of inaccurate stories, news, rumors, whatever about TSM, especially when TSM takes this long to make their own official announcements. It gave us even more time to like drag things on, make these crazy stories. We heard everything from Faker, to Humanoid to Jensen and everything in between for TSM this offseason. But lucky for us, Parth actually did an AMA, and he actually did a really, really good AMA where he gave a lot of thoughtful, in-depth responses to what TSM's offseason was like, what the future's like for TSM, and everything in between. That's what we're going to be going over in today's video, so definitely drop a like if you do enjoy it. I would appreciate that a ton, and subscribe to stay up to date on all my latest content. We're trying to hit 10,000 by the end of the year. I think we're going to do it. I think we're on pace right now, but that doesn't mean we should stop. That doesn't mean we should slow down. That doesn't mean we don't need your help still, so click that button real quick. And with that being said, let's get right into this. So here it is. I'm Parth, TSM League General Manager. Ask me anything. And this thing, there's so much information. You can scroll forever. And, I had people on Twitter being like, hey, I'm not reading that whole thing. Looks cool, looks interesting, sounds good. I'm not reading that. So, what's the scoop? What's going on? And that's partly why I wanted to make this video, to kind of cut it down. So I have selected a couple of what I think are the more interesting questions and answers in this thread that I'm going to be covering. And we'll go from there. So it might be a little bit longer of a video, but I think there should be a lot of good information. So if you're curious about TSM, their offseason, anything like that, make sure you stick around and catch as much of this video as you can. But here we go. This guy asked, towards the beginning of free agency, it was rumored that TSM were going for Korean players. There was a lot of rumors about TSM Fate and Life. Was there any merit to this? What made TSM pivot towards LPL LDL players? And Parth says, so first off, seems, not totally accurate, because he says the only Korean support we were interested in this offseason was Lehens, but I think Gen G had a much more enticing roster. Gen G reached out to us about Life, but there are many reasons it didn't make sense for us. Fate was on our short list of Korean mids, but it didn't make sense for us to pursue him if we weren't able to pair him with the Korean support that we felt confident in and could also get. That's another big point. Not only does TSM have to like the player, TSM has to be able to get the player. That player has to want to come to TSM for an amount of money that TSM is willing to offer as well. It's not just like, oh, TSM is like, hey, I would really like that guy, and then he just appears on their roster. It's just not how it works. But it seems like, TSM wasn't as focused on Korean players as, maybe we would have thought, or maybe we were hearing at one point in the offseason. It does seem like more of a Chinese focus throughout the whole offseason. So, who are the other mid laners in the scouting combine that Keto was able to smurf against? And Parth says they were mostly other LDL level players and some Korean and LCS players. Most top level players or teams weren't going to scrim against an LCS team doing random tryouts. So it's not like he shit on Knight or anything like that. Also, I mentioned this elsewhere, but there are a bunch of factors that combined made him a strong candidate. So that's a very, very important thing. People don't really know how Keto is going to do in the LCS. They don't know how good he's going to be. And TSM doesn't necessarily know how good he's going to be or how he's going to do yet either. They just did a combine where they got all the good, young, talented potential players that they could, and they saw who they thought was the best of them. It's not like in scrims, Keto was like going toe-to-toe with Faker, or even going toe-to-toe with like Bjergsen and Jensen or guys like that. This was just him standing out from a pool of the players that they had there. That was all they could do. So, it's not... Just because they decided to go with Keto in the end doesn't necessarily mean he's some stud, doesn't necessarily mean he's going to pop off or be some star. It just means of all the options they had presented to them, of all the players, that they were considering, or the players that made sense in this context for the right amount of money and their team and their what they have planned for 2022, that this is the guy they ended up going with. So, it is just kind of an interesting thing to keep in mind. Here's a big question. Was the Faker 40 million FTX contract ever a thing? Parth says no. Period. And that's not shocking. I really think if you ever believe that, you were, I don't even know, you were on something, because it just makes no sense. The story made absolutely no sense. It was so random. I can't believe people took and ran with it as they did. But he says, I would urge Faker to come to NA before he retires. He's already beaten Worlds on easy mode playing in LCK. He can cement his GOAT status if he beats Worlds on hard mode by playing in NA. And I do agree. Obviously, it'd be very cool to see Faker at some point in North America. And I believe, TSM could have made offers to him, or FTX could have wanted TSM to get him or whatever, but 40 million, that doesn't even make sense. That's not even a number that is really possible. But I'm glad that, he put an end to that. No, period. I'm glad he answered that question, even though it was kind of a more ridiculous one. Here's another very interesting one. Can you comment on, even if no offers were made, that TSM was looking at Humanoid, Tactical, and Mikyx? If so, what changed TSM's mind? And I love that he goes very in-depth on this question. Big response here. The furthest we got was Humanoid was mad asking us to put in an offer for a buyout. We would have been able to speak with Humanoid if we hit a certain amount, but we declined. During the offseason, there were many rumors tied us to regarding who we were pursuing from Humanoid and Grabs, but I did not have a single conversation with either. Now, he doesn't say that no one in TSM had a conversation with Humanoid, but this is very interesting because there were some sources out there. I was telling you guys, do not listen to them. They're trolling. They don't know shit. I don't know why you guys are giving them attention and clout. There were people obviously out there saying that TSM and Humanoid had a verbal agreement in place. And obviously that does not seem to be the case. It seems like, TSM never got past Mad Lions letting Humanoid speak with them. Now, the story was that, TSM and Humanoid have an agreement in place, but then Fnatic popped up and they stole Humanoid away at the last second. It doesn't seem like that's what happened, at least getting the story from Parth. Now, does Parth have to tell the absolute full truth on a Reddit AMA? No, but it does seem like he's being pretty open and honest throughout this whole thing, so I don't really understand why he would lie about this. Seems like a really stupid thing to just lie about. It seems more likely that people got bad sources or people were straight up lying. Again, like I said, because you're incentivized to do so because people love TSM news. I mean, I know that for a fact. If I were an agent representing Humanoid or Grabs or a team looking to sell the contract, I would also leak to sources that we were in talk with TSM and being offered X amount. It would help me negotiate with the teams actually interested if they believe they have competition. Unless those teams have good relationships with TSM, they can't reach out to confirm. And even if they did, if TSM were actually pursuing them, we'd probably lie or be vague anyways. It's also possible that rumors just started from thin air and picked up traction. Again, that's what I'm trying to tell you guys. That's very possible. Either way, there are countless false rumors or predictions every year, some that have reasoning behind them, others just plain weird. Now, getting into Mikyx. As for Mikyx, different story. I think he's one of the strongest supports in EU. I totally agree with that. That's what I've been saying. Even though 2022 or 2021 might have been a little bit of a down year for him, I still think he had very good moments throughout the season. I still think he's really good. I can't believe he's not on a team. After his experience at G2 and the caliber of player he is, he wanted to make sure the conditions were right for him to join TSM, specifically the contract length and roster input. We decided that this was not in the best interest of TSM long term and chose not to pursue it further. So they did actually have conversations with Mikyx, but those conversations just did not pan out. So kind of interesting. That gives us context on not only TSM's offseason, but Mikyx's offseason as well. Because I know Carlos had talked about what happened with Mikyx a little bit and stuff like that, and it seems like TSM never, actually got an offer out to Mikyx or, never got past discussions or anything like that. How does TSM plan to help Tactical and Shenyi effectively gel considering they don't speak the same language? He said, we have two coaches working with the LCS team that are bilingual, Chowie and Peter Zhang, I believe, maybe even more that they're talking about. We will help them codify basic communication that should work well in the short term. In the long term, we'll be providing English lessons for Keto and Shenyi. First, focus on communicating LOL knowledge and then into general English. So I think that is also very cool. Again, I have been preaching to everyone that I think it is so important for international players to make some attempt to learn English, to connect with LCS fans, to connect with League of Legends fans, Western fans. If we want these, this is the LCS franchising. LCS needs to grow. LCS needs content, storylines, excitement. This is competition, but it's entertainment at the end of the day. And I do think to be successful in North America, not only need to speak English just to live your daily life, to interact with your teammates, to interact with the outside world, but also for the entire off-the-rift experience of the LCS as well. It's not just clock in, play some games, and clock out. You are a League of Legends professional, and part of that is media obligations, communication, all that stuff. So I think that's cool. Here we say a few quick questions. Is the entire team and coaching staff boot camping in Korea together? He said, we're trying to send as many players and staff from our LCS and academy team to Korea as we can, but just a lot of visa issues. So, you know, kind of what's going on there. Somebody asked why they didn't go to China, why they went to Korea instead. And he says it's much harder to get visas to go into China at the moment. There was a couple other ones that I wanted to cover. What is the current language capabilities of each player? Does Tactical or Huni speak any Mandarin to go with Spica in the new editions? I think this is a very, very interesting question that a lot of people are curious about. He said Huni and Tactical don't speak any Mandarin. Huni speaks Korean and English fluently. Tactical speaks English and can understand Korean. Sounds like he doesn't speak Korean or doesn't speak Korean very well. Spica speaks Mandarin and English. Shenny and Keto only speak Mandarin. So this is a mix, just kind of a jumble of stuff being all over the place. So kind of interesting. You know, we will see exactly how that goes. Here we go. I'm assuming Shenny and Keto don't speak any English. Did it take some convincing for Spica to be up to the task to be the bridge between all the players? In-game shot calling must be hard if you have to say some things twice in different languages. Very, very good question, I think. He said, I spoke to Spica about this idea 2 days after we were knocked out of Worlds. He was constantly updated on the different roster directions throughout the offseason, and we wouldn't have moved forward if he wasn't comfortable with this route. So, obviously, Spica, defending MVP, face of the franchise for TSM, a really fun, exciting, young, great player. But it does seem like there's going to be a lot of pressure on his shoulders this season. You know, he is going to have to be a facilitator between these Chinese players and Tactical and Huni and just the organization in general, helping them integrate, but also helping them play in game. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be language barriers. There's going to be communication issues. And TSM's not the only team going through this. Obviously, Cloud9 is you know, fighting a similar battle. I think it's going to be tough. I don't think it's going to be easy. And I hope it doesn't affect Spica's, you know, individual play. Another question that a lot of people were interested about, was Cream ever an option? Did he take part in the combine? I'm happy with this roster and appreciate your work. He says, we never got to speak to or try out Cream. He's a very, very talented player, but from my understanding, he already has a path to LPL on a different team. So again, just another instance of rumors, speculation, stories being put out that at the end of the day just absolutely had no substance at all, which I think is very, very interesting. And I do appreciate Parth, you know, peeling back the curtains, letting us know what's going on. And I'm a huge fan of transparency. I'm a huge fan of communication. I'm a huge fan of engagement. And I think this overall was a very, very successful and awesome AMA from Parth. But that is pretty much it for this video today, guys. Definitely drop a like if you did enjoy it. I would appreciate it so, so much. Leave a comment down below. What do you think about all these stories and stuff from TSM's offseason? Do you think they're in a spot where they'll be able to be successful in 2022 in the future? Or do you think it's going to be more of the same, you know, struggles that we've seen over the last 4 years for TSM? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. Subscribe, stay up to date on all my latest content. Hopefully catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace!